it's Pibble Pusher, and I've been working on a very lush build lately, and as such I needed some plants. So in this video I'm going to go over the 3 different kinds of plants I built, starting with some kind of spiky grasses. For all 3 of these builds you're going to want to use sticker or label paper, and for the grasses I ended up alternating with a pen, just green and yellow stripes, because I wanted a variegated grass. If you want a plain grass, you can of course just go green, or a fantastical grass, use whatever color you want. Absolutely fine. Once you have your stripes on the page, you can go ahead and cut them out. If you want a variegated grass, I would recommend cutting down the center of the green strips, so you make sure there's green on both sides, and that just makes sure that your final product has a green, yellow, green on each piece of grass. Then you're going to peel the backing off of your sticker and fold it in half, doing your best to align both sides to minimize the amount of white poking out on either end. Then you get your knife and you're going to cut it into a point. If you do this cleanly, you can actually use both side pieces as little tiny blades as well, just to add a bit more detail to your final piece. Once you have quite a few cut out, you can go ahead and start carving up a piece of XPS foam. I imagine Ready Board would work as well, but I just had this handy. And you're going to want quite a small piece as your bottom so it doesn't overwhelm the plant itself. Get your hot glue gun, add just a tiny bit of glue to the bottom of each blade of grass, and affix and hold until the glue dries. Depending on the piece of foam and the layout, I've found anywhere from 3 to 7 pieces of grass made for a nice looking tuft. I painted the bases brown and then I was done. Next up are some hanging vines. I have some cliffs and waterfalls in my build, so it was important to me to have some foliage that could soften those up. I Cricut out a bisected leaf design and then colored in whatever yellow and green designs on those leaves tickled my fancy, peeling up the edges to make them easier to work with. I used jute cord as my stem, took each of these stickers, placed the stem in the center between the 2 bisected leaves, and then folded them around it, lining up the edges as best I could to avoid the white outline from the underside of the sticker. I did this all the way up the stem, alternating directions so that the leaves would be evenly spaced. And that was most of it. I actually really liked the jute cord for this too, because it was stiff enough that I could kink the end and just hang it wherever. So I don't have to glue it down and permanently affix it. I can hang this on lots of different pieces of terrain, keeping it modular. Last but certainly not least are these little fern, bird of paradise, whatever you want to call them. This time I used the print and cut feature on my Cricut because I did not trust myself to draw nice enough leaves. And for a stem, I used floral wire, which you can get very cheaply at the dollar store on spools or on rods like this. Each sticker I simply peeled off and placed the wire as if it was the stem reaching through one of the leaves, closing the leaf like a book over it and aligning the edges as best I could. Then I would cut off the desired length of stem, making sure to leave a little bit extra to poke into our foam later. Some of my leaves had more white than I liked, so I took a little bit of green acrylic paint and painted in the white. Apologies for the blur, the camera really wanted to look at my thumb for these. Very similar to the first build, we're going to get a little chunk of foam, and this time we're going to just stab in the wires. It will be very top heavy, that is normal at this point, don't worry about it. You can also add some glue at this point, or as I'll show in a second, I did it once they were all in and I was happy with the placement. As you can see, anywhere from 3 to kind of 5 leaves seem to make a nice full bush fern thing. Then I got a little bit of white glue and just put a dot in the center using another piece of floral wire to sort of guide the glue around the bases of each of the stems to keep them in place because they are pretty loose in the foam to start. Letting that dry fully, I then took more white glue and rimmed it around the base of the foam. We're going to go ahead and add some sand, some gravel. This is both to give it texture, but more importantly to give it some weight, so to help it stop being so top heavy, because they will just fall over. but between the sand and then the layer of black Mod Podge to sort of cement anything down and to add again a little bit more weight, they do stay upright nicely. You can then add a little bit of brown paint just to sort of blend it in with the other terrain, and we're done. So those are my little plans. All of the Cricut files will be through the link in the description. Until next time, happy crafting.